Steelers fans, imagine all the world's greatest songs about the world's greatest football team in a once-in-a-lifetime collection. What Jin's Talking About presents Steelers Songs Volume 1. 30 Pittsburgh songs, all about the black and gold. From Mike Tomlin
the standard is the standard when you're listening to Tomlin
to Russell Wilson.
Let Russ cook, oh let him soar through skies of black and gold.
And Cam Hayward.
Cam, don't go to Cleveland.
Get the Steelers Songs collection on 2 CDs or 2 cassettes for just $26.99.
Who is gonna catch the ball?
Or completely free on your favorite streaming service.
You say you're black and gold, but your face are full of it.
That's right, iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio.
Tomlin stays for 3 more years.
These songs will have you reaching for your terrible towel. Satisfaction guaranteed. Steelers Songs Volume 1 is not sold in stores.
No, we don't want no HBO.
So don't be a jagoff. Listen to Steelers Songs Volume 1 now. Only from What Jin's Talking About. The conversation about the Steelers conversation.
You can see the black and gold when we're in the Super Bowl.
Yoy!
I'm not gonna worry about your level of concern.
Yoy and double yoy!
We talking about Twitter.
Triple yoy!
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Quadruple yoy!
Training camp is Kennywood for me. We're not urinating on the fire, man.
We mock ourselves.
That's right. Kennywood may be closed, but the fire still burns. Am I on? I don't even hear myself. Okay.
I hear you.
You hear it?
Yes.
Okay. It's What Jin. No music today. Sorry, I'm a little under the gun. The music returns next week. Don't worry. It's not like MTV. We haven't gone to the no music yet.
All reality shows over here.
Yeah. It's What Jin's Talking About.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation about the Steelers. Social media conversation. Exposing all the week's hot and toxic takes. I'm Kyle Kreis. Across from me is Greg Benevent.
Hello.
I'm going to just turn you down a little.
Wow, that was how forceful. Hello.
That was, yeah. Of course, can we get the audio level set? Who knows? It's only been four years, I think.
It's either this week or next week is 4 years. It could be this week. It's not like you and I were counting.
I have it somewhere in my in the documents folder, which is the folder that you never open, where files go to die.
Oh yeah.
Lots to do today, I guess. We're going to we're going to talk coming up on this. Well, the one thing that no one is talking about that I want to talk about are the special teamers. Who are these gunners? I know we're only
new ones.
Look, I'm not going to fall for the preseason trap, but does that mean on the negative side I'm not either? Because I'm just like, man, I don't question marks here, question marks there. It's like the Riddler out here. Riddle me this, Tomlin. Special teams I want to talk about in the second half.
Okay.
Tomlin returned to the pivot.
Oh, great.
Not it wasn't as mind-blowing as round one.
Well, but you can't do it the first time twice.
Yeah, that's lessons to be learned. Can't do it the first time twice. Is that a Tomlinism?
I don't think so. We could put it on an $80 T-shirt.
Yeah, right. You do buy 2 get 1 free. I think was the special, and I was like, buy 2, $90, and that's still more than 3 T-shirts. Right. Come on, Mrs. Tomlin. Let's get a fan deal on some of these shirts, or else I'm going to just go down to Station Square and buy one off the Off the what? I don't know. Okay. Enough caucus. It's because we've got lots of takes to get to. Starting with quarterbacks.
It's my quarterback.
Who is my quarterback? That's the question. If you ask. At Brett Coleman. Yeah, so Russ won the QB job. Can you win a starting QB job without playing? Or he already was the QB one. I don't know. What after one preseason game that I swear I'm not gonna convince myself it means anything.
Right.
Yeah, but Russ won the QB one.
Well, but I think that's just it. I think if you don't, so long as you treat the first preseason game as the first preseason game and accept that Russ was in pole position, which to Tomlin apparently means more than it does in racing. It means that, Russ won the QB job because Russ never lost the QB job, nor was the QB job ever really in question. So thus, Russ has always won the QB job up until the point where he plays QB.
Yeah, Justin Fields didn't do what the Fields hopefuls hoped for.
Right.
So.
And that also might not have been possible. I don't think there was a way for Justin Fields to do what the Fields hopefuls would have thought possible, particularly not in, 3 drives against the Texans? Maybe 4? I don't even remember at this point.
But he may have broken the Tomlin Cardinal rule at PGH Magic K, Pittsburgh Magic Man. Justin Fields has some things to clean up after the first preseason game. I find it astonishing that pro athletes who have been playing ball since they could walk are guilty of the first cardinal sin: control and hold on to the ball. Two botch snaps and a couple sacks, although he didn't fumble any of those away. No picks, I guess.
Right.
But, fumbled snaps do seem to be day one kind of camp things that you should have straightened out. I don't know.
No, 100%. And I thought it was interesting you said day one of camp, because that's the day that the team's starting quarterback messed up his knee on a tackling dummy or whatever. But seriously, that's exactly right. I mean, Tomlin even specifically mentioned those snaps in his post-game press conference, and it was one of the earlier things he said. So, as I remember it. So, yeah, that is, and as we know with Tomlin, he takes holding on to the ball very seriously. So anything that jeopardizes that is more than enough to sink any positivity that may have happened otherwise.
And especially if Russ can't throw a pick because he's not in the game, then
right. You can't win the job from the tub, but you can't turn the ball over in the tub either.
Yeah. Well, or is it just excuses? According to at Sloss_boss12, Slossboss12. Tomlin blaming bad snaps on Herbig and Field so he can further justify starting Russ. I mean, is there a conspiracy to keep Justin has got every possible chance he could so far.
Yes. And two, I'm not sure. I mean, look, the coaches and the people on the sidelines are privy to views that none of us, even the best camera views watching at home, have. But I really doubt that Tomlin was able to determine after that game exactly the extent of the percentages of who the bad snaps were really the fault of, whether it was Herbig or Fields. And I think Tomlin wants to start Russ because he wants to start Russ.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to search for the conspiracy. The evidence is in front of you.
And as far as the rest of Justin's play, he hit a couple, and he didn't hit a couple. I think Dan Oslovsky or whatever on NFL Network was like, oh, his timing is still off on some stuff. But then I think Arthur Smith came out and said, oh, these I don't know if he was talking about that, but he was like, these TV and internet analysts don't know what they're talking about.
Well, one, I think that's a way to endear yourself to the fan base and the players, is to say that the media is bad. I mean, that's good for Arthur Smith. And two, I thought, Fields hit the pass to I forget if it was Van Jefferson or someone else that was rolled incorrectly out of bounds, and Tomlin chose not to challenge, to give his players more of a challenge, even though it seems like he would have won it fairly easily. But I mean, I didn't have the problem with Fields' accuracy. But again, I forgot that Fields was accurate because all I thought about, just like Tomlin, are the botched snaps.
Yeah. Well, why didn't he challenge it? It's like afterwards he was like, it's hard to, sustain a drive when you're behind the chains. Like, well, we wouldn't have been behind the chains if you would have, but I guess is, one rep at 3rd and 15 worth more than trying to, sustain a longer drive?
I get it from Tomlin's perspective, especially since it was the first preseason game.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have made up his mind in that moment too, because they definitely did get another drive out there. So I could see it being like, okay, we're going to let they don't get it here. They'll try it again. So, yeah, let's see what they can do with 3rd and 15.
Okay, one last thing on QBs. At Super Psy_1, K Sykes. Since mid-June, nearly 90% of NFL analysts and podheads, most notable Mike Florio, Mike Tannenbaugh, Dan Graziano, Diana Rusina, etc., yada, yada, yada. Big drum beater for Kenny Pickett as quarterback number 1. Now also cheerleader for QB1 Justin Fields. All believe Justin without citing any stats and despite 3-year cringe career. Yada, 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 yada. By the start of the season, Steelers fans better hope Russell Wilson is ready. I would rather play Russell Wilson sitting in a wheelchair than Justin riding on a horse. Is that just the 500-word way to say it doesn't matter what Justin does in these next 2 games? It's Russ or nothing.
Well, first off, congratulations to us, like Justin Fields, on the 3rd year of our cringe career. Now that we're moving forward. But the other part of it, I've never said this about a tweet before, is that I would have believed this more if it was a spreadsheet. I mean, maybe this person's right. It's hard for me to, nail down Nick Wright, Mina Kynes, Chase Daniels, and other people whose names I do not recognize as being cheerleaders for Kenny Pickett to be the starting quarterback. If anything, I can understand media figures wanting more controversy and hence wanting a quarterback competition. Fields certainly is in many ways the sexier pick than Russ, in large part due to age and talent. And I will say that, I don't know how much Steelers media you consume from the different outlets out there, but to a person, almost all of them say that Fields is the most athletic quarterback they've seen since Prime Ben. And for some of them that are younger, the most athletic quarterback they've seen at Latrobe ever. So I get that, but I'm not sure exactly what this person's thinking. I, too, am more comfortable with Russ just because I think so much of this offense is going to be new and so much of it is going to be discombobulated and disorganized and possibly under-talented. Having the older guy who's won with some offenses that are, struggles in motion is a lot more preferable, particularly early on.
That brings up a good point. Let's move on to...
These are the new leads. These are the Glengarry leads.
Arthur Smith with the true Glengarry plays.
Someone found them.
We have them, and so does at Steel City Mikey. Steel City Mikey. This offense is night and day better in comparison to last year. What a huge difference a competent offensive coordinator makes. Really? 0 points scored in the first half. Well, how night and day was it? I don't know. Was it night and day yet?
It seemed fairly. Look, I know nothing about it. They certainly seem to move the ball. If Calvin Austin remembers how to catch a ball, they do kind of score a touchdown. But I was struck by a phrase I hadn't realized how long it had been since I heard it in the post game. Just reading different things. How many people use the phrase, "This guy was schemed wide open"? And it hit me. I don't know when I've heard that phrase in connection to the Steelers. God, I don't even know if I have. It must have been, I don't know, maybe a decade ago. I can't remember ever hearing it before, and that was new. That doesn't mean Fields saw the guy. It doesn't mean that he caught the ball. But I don't know if I'd heard how long it's been since I've heard he was schemed wide open.
I can't even. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, no.
Right. I mean, it's when somebody used that. I mean, and that's not to say that every Canada play was bad. Far from it. There were some plays that I remember standing out for being particularly clever. There were a lot of like, and then we handed off to Connor Hayward, and he burst through the line. Like I remember a few of those were pretty cool. But yeah, he was schemed wide open. Is one of those phrases like and then the warship came to port. Like it just sounds very very antique-y.
More on Arthur Smith. Is it the return of the BA era? At Anthony G. Halkeus. Anthony G. Halkeus. I don't know. It sounds Greek to me. Steelers, Arthur Smith admits he's going to be taking a lot more risk in 2024 on the offensive side of the ball. What? Is this BA part 2? Here's the quote, because I was like, well, how much more risk? So this was, I guess, Tuesday, I guess, after practice. We try to be aggressive in practice. We want to be smarter, but not reckless. We have a lot of team speed, so we try and push the ball down the field, yada, yada, yada. We got 50-50 balls with certain guys. We want to see them. We want to see them, give them a chance. There's risk on every play, yada, yada, yada. We want to err on the side of being more aggressive, yada, yada. We get the looks. We got the green light. Is this going to be, Big Ben and BA? Should we expect, I guess, deep balls seem to be our QB's thing. Maybe we will see them.
Certainly, but I feel like you did an analysis and others did as well last year, the last couple of years, that the Canada offense didn't lack for throwing deep passes. Like that there were plenty of deep passes. They were just always on the sidelines and not all that often completed. And also, I think risk, even in the because it's, I don't know if that quote necessarily means they're going to be all that riskier, because I don't think there's another way Arthur could have responded to that. Actually, we're going to be more conservative. It's going to be a lot of short dumping off. It's going to be a lot of checkdowns, hopefully some dive plays. We're really not looking to be all that aggressive. We're just going to kind of hold on to the ball and hope the defense figures this game out for us. I mean, he wasn't going to say that, but I do believe there will be some more risk. And also, risk doesn't have to take the form of everyone runs as deep as they can. I think risk can be, okay, let's have the quarterbacks run a bit more. Let's, take other risks that way. And also, I'm so glad you used this picture. I was trying to figure this out. Is that vest connected to the shirt, or are they separate? Because I watched this whole press conference, and it's like 5 minutes. I couldn't figure it out by the end of it.
It does look like a one piece.
Right.
Like the faux vest.
Yes, that's what I couldn't figure it out. I almost texted you at the time.
White is the new black at camp this year.
Really
everyone's
really
into white.
Is.
But is it going to be like, gosh, we saw this a few times last season where it's like 3rd and 1 and we go deep, go bomb.
Right. The end of the Patriots game. I mean, that was the most egregious example of that. Yes.
And of course, when Ben did it, it was like genius. But I don't know. I don't know how much risk. I thought we were going to be we're going to run it 40 times a game.
Yeah, and even that. I mean, I don't necessarily know how to put this into words, which is a problem for podcasting. But I imagine there are riskier ways to run as well. Like there's different risks in terms of how you run the ball and the runs you take and when you take them, so that risk and aggression means something other than throwing it as deep as possible into triple coverage.
I somewhat resent that.
Okay, well, I don't know. Don't call the plays then.
He doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, let's move on with more Arthur Smith love at Alex_Kozora. Alex Kozora. Just one preseason game, etc. But Pittsburgh had 3 completions of 20-plus yards off play action. That's as many such 20-plus play action completions as Steelers had under Matt Canada before firing last year.
Wow.
Play action is back. Again, I'm not going to believe the preseason, but 3 20-yard play action plays, and I didn't realize they were not just as many, I guess.
I didn't either. And I do think, to speak to your point about, okay, we're not going to get too, up or down based on one preseason game. But one thing I think we can reasonably take from a preseason game is if they ran a play action play, they're interested in pursuing play action during the season.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a pretty fair assumption. You run the plays you want to run, even if they're the vanilla version of it is. That's a word I've heard far too much in the last 3 weeks, by the way. It's vanilla because it's the preseason. But yeah, so I think that you saw play action. Well, they're going to want to do more of that, and that's something they're working on.
Yeah.
I don't even understand where that's coming
Well,
from.
it's coming. You put it on tape. Coach. But how about there's got to be a counter argument to all this art love. Where is it? At DVE Mike Pursuta. Biggest disappointment was inability to play bully ball as desired. Goal line series included runs that didn't get there out of a 3 tight end set, twice from a 2 tight end fullback alignment. 3 tight end run also denied on a 2-point try. Physicality emphasized throughout camp, not there yet. I was in the first half. There were a couple. I mean, Warren had a good run.
Yes.
I don't know. Najee, I guess, was just okay. But we didn't run it 40 times in the first preseason game. And we'll talk about O-line in a bit. But are we going to be? Are we going to be playing from behind and passing 30, 40 times again?
Hopefully not. Hopefully they run the ball early, and then the defense keeps it close, and then get moving later on. And also, I think, Pursuta is someone that is as connected to the team as anybody. I mean, for those of you that hopefully don't watch a lot of Steelers content on YouTube, Pursuta has morning and afternoon shows through the Steelers on every training camp practice. So, like, if this guy's saying it, it's a connected kind of thing. I mean, not that like he's in there on the meetings, but still. So I think they emphasize physicality, and it isn't there yet, which is, you can take to mean, okay, it hasn't peaked yet. But for a team that could not express enough how much we want to be more physical, they were not the overtly physical yet through this first game.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the standouts, at least in blocking wise, I think I saw Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller. I think those guys doing more I was more impressed by what I saw from them and the blocking maybe than some of the
which is
other
a
guys.
problem because they're the size of you and I for the most part. That's an issue.
One more thing. Is this one more? Well, let's see. At Yinzer Gear. I can't imagine the difficulty with all the scheme and personnel turnover this season. Fans need to understand it takes time. First preseason game with all that in mind. I'm not concerned. Appreciate your wise words here, Trey. It was his reply to Trey. I think something Trey said.
Yeah.
Okay. Only first preseason game, but we've got to unleash hell in September this year.
Oh,
we can't even 2-2 might be under the gun for us.
That might not be good. Not with the way the rest of the schedule is going to break down. Yes. I mean, I'm not concerned about the first preseason game being bad because, again, last year's preseason showed you how not good can be eventually. But I understand there was a lot of scheme and personal turnover, and this takes time and all that. But this was all expressly done to improve this team, to win with this team. This is, you didn't bring in someone like Russell Wilson to rebuild. So this team is here to win. Yeah,
theoretically, if it was still Kenny and DJ and
Mason Cole.
Yeah. Then theoretically this team has improved just based on QB alone, right? So okay, let's talk about the big boys. At Carney Media, Trey Carney. Dan Moore is your starting left tackle, Steeler Nation. Yay. So this was in the wake of the Fautanu injury. But even now, it looks like, maybe Dan Moore is still in the pole position at left tackle.
He very well could be. It seems odd. I mean, we have the Dulac report that Fautanu is going to start at right tackle in Atlanta, regardless of what happens the rest of the preseason, that he's already won that job. And if we take that to be true, then you would think that Broderick Jones should or has been able to beat out Dan Moore, but that might not be the case, in which case, wow, that does not speak well of the development of Broderick Jones, even though I know he's still doesn't have as much experience as, say, Troy Fautanu, which is odd. But yeah, the team looked so much better running the ball last year once Jones was in there. And it does seem, I know there's been a lot of criticism of how they've used the two tackles and not letting anyone really settle into a position yet. So this is one of those ones where I hope they know what they're doing, but
Has there been anyone with 49 games of starting experience that is more looked down on than Dan Moore Jr.?
You're right, and I know so much of that is the PFF rankings. Like that really is that how many zeros he's been given at the lowest possible grade and all that. And it's whenever I hear that, I always think like, okay, I know he didn't play well, but it's hard for me to believe that he really was like, so far below failing as to be like a 0.0. So and Dan Moore's going to be a rich man because he's going to sign somewhere else for a lot of money after the season. But yeah, it is. There has, for a guy that has played started almost every game of his career, the fans are very, very ready to get him out of town.
Now let's talk about you. You already mentioned it.
Oh, you jumped ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah,
at Jerry Dulac, Steelers are not waiting any longer. Troy Fautanu will be the starting right tackle. Now Wetzel says no way. It's weird that this came out after the injury. It's like, wait a minute, the guy with the knee injury is the guy automatically starting. The guy
with the huge brace on his knee at Latrobe.
He played as many career series as as a Beanie Bishop or something.
Yes.
So.
Yes, and he got beaten pretty badly a couple times. Yeah, I mean by very good pass rushers, but that's who you're going to see in the National Football League.
I mean, how much do you believe that? I'm thinking he's not. Is he playing this week? I don't know. He's still in the brace.
I don't think he's playing this. I think they said 2 weeks he was out.
2 weeks? So you're going to start a rookie with zero NFL, 3 preseason drives of experience is going to automatically start? That just that fish seems fishy. I don't know if I'm buying it.
Well, I mean, it's what they did for Kendrick Green. It seems a lot less talented, a lot less heralded. But so, I mean, it's certainly no stretch of my imagination that they would put Fautanu there. I find it surprising just because of, like, as you mentioned before, how much Dan Moore has started. But what I do know is that, and it really becomes like the lodestar in terms of, what do the Steelers think? What are they focused on? Tomlin really is only focused on winning the next game in front of them. So if they think it'll be a better way to beat the Falcons, they'll start Fautanu. And if not, they won't. That really is the bottom line with that. They won't worry about his growth. They won't worry about his development or anything like that. If they think it'll give them the best chance to beat that team, then they'll do it.
Although, if the rookie is starting week 1, it's really harder to take him out then. And now that's the storyline. It's like, what's going on with these tackles? Mm-hmm. We started the rookie week 1, he couldn't hang. And so now we're moving Broderick Jones all around.
Flipping dudes through all these different positions again. And yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and just for the same exact reason we didn't do it with Broderick Jones last year. It seems like what changed
and
from
Joey
last
Porter
year?
Jr. Yeah.
Well, so what changed from last year to this year? Is it just that Fautanu is that much more talented?
I think it might be that Fautanu is that much more experienced. I mean, he started, 3 or 4 years at Washington, whereas Broderick Jones played, 10 games at Georgia? I can see Tomlin valuing that. But, I mean, also Fautanu is a special athlete and all that kind of thing. I can see those two things adding up to, and also the practices, which mercifully I'm not there privy to. If they've seen enough to start him, they think that he's going to be the better option to win this game, they'll start him. I mean, so it could, but I could see using all of that as a rationale. Hey, he's looked fine in practice. He started all those games with Washington. He is that talented, and here we go.
But Tomlin says it's the tape you make on game day.
Yes.
And at the real Mayor BCC, Sean Ashton says Troy gave up 2 sacks while he was in there.
He did.
He was bad. I mean, the game, what we've put on tape is not doesn't equalize all that, everything you've talked about.
Right.
There.
Well, I mean, if you got pulled for giving up sacks, Dan Moore wouldn't have started all those 4 years of games, unfortunately. But when I was following the game, I didn't know this about the Texans. I guess one of the guys that beat Troy for the sack was like they spent all this money to get this big pass rusher out of the NFC, whose name I did not recognize. The dude had like 16 sacks. So I mean, it wasn't some bum that beat him. But you also can't have him beating the quarterback, since these guys are going to take a lot of sacks between Fields and Russ. Whoever starts, and it's going to be Russ, is going to take a lot of hits. So I was surprised by the Dulac tweet to say that Fautano absolutely was going to start week 1. That I was genuinely surprised by that. I see the argument for it, but it's going to work. I thought we had a plan in place with the way it worked with Jones last year, but if they're going to start, but if they think it's the best chance to win, they'll do it.
And no one's been asked directly that, right? I mean, I guess there hasn't been a chance. Although Arthur Smith spoke on Tuesday, no one asked him straight up, oh, so you guys are starting Fautanu week 1? I don't think.
It seems like it'd be such an easy question for them to deflect. Oh, we're just thinking about joint practice in the game with the Bills. I mean, it's one of those ones that, like, there's no way. I don't know how. It'd be hard to lawyer your way into asking that question to get anything approaching an answer. Like,
I don't know that I have an opinion that's worth expressing.
Right. Okay. Well, you got 2 weeks to make an opinion. But then what about at Tommy Jaggy? Too many reps of lazy footwork from Broderick Jones in the preseason opener. This is just one of a handful. He needs to dial it in from the first snap. This is you can see Broderick Jones chasing number 55.
I was going to say, they having been beaten already in the screenshot by this guy racing towards Justin Fields.
So do you think this talk is it more what Troy has been able to do, or maybe what Broderick Jones has not yet been able to do?
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit of both. I think that could be, and this could be, where it's, Troy starts at right and Dan starts at left. Broderick Jones did look, the offense did get a lot better, particularly running the ball once he showed up as a starter last year, halfway through the season. But that was with Broderick at right, although we kept hearing that left was Broderick's natural position. It's time for that to start becoming a lot more natural.
Yeah, right. If Dan Moore wins the job, we're all assuming he's going to score this big payday. Is it?
Right.
I know that's I'm talking 8 months down the line here, but
right.
If Broderick Jones doesn't develop, what's that say, about Dan Moore's future? Would you consider him bringing him back?
No, because
No.
they would just have, they would assume that Jones was going to get it in another year. And besides, you'd have to pay so much for Dan Moore anyway, because for all the reasons you said, tackle with starting experience, that someone is going to overpay for Dan Moore, just as so many thought the Steelers did with Chooks until they found an excuse to get rid of him and move Broderick Jones to his position.
Yeah, Well, yeah. Let's not. Yeah, it's not. It's preseason.
We're so far
it's
from this. See, that's just it. You gotta. We're back to one game at a time things, or as we're gonna do, one joint practice at a time for some reason.
I'm having. This doesn't help my O-line anxieties, because that seems
this
to be.
This is the most down I've ever seen you on the team about this offensive line in the preseason.
Well, now especially because it's not just the tackles at Scarpizio, Scarps. It's almost like Herbig isn't a starting center. Has he? Do you think we'll see him back in the starting spot this weekend?
I don't know. Didn't he get hurt on Wednesday's practice? Didn't I read that? Or maybe it was the other Herbig. I just saw Herbig got hurt. I thought it was the center. I think obviously the plan is to move to Frazier earlier, but you'll notice there was no Dulac tweet about him starting in Atlanta weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I imagine if Herbig is even slightly hurt, they're going to let Frazier play as much of this as possible just to see where his development is. But, I mean, I keep thinking they're going to want to have more experienced guys on that offensive line in Atlanta, but maybe not. Maybe they're going to want to start all the rookies as soon as possible, and let's go. It could be that, too.
Yeah, can we blame anything that Russ, if Russ is under the gun all game and doesn't have the time to throw downfield and all this, are we going to be, we're going to be like, oh, told you it should have been Fields when we're starting three youngins on the line there. I don't,
Right. Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I'm not sure I'm already looking for excuses for why the Steelers lost to the Falcons or who to blame for it. But yeah, it's every team has a lot of question marks, and the Steelers, through trying to improve their team, have as many or not more than I can remember in some time.
Well, is there a bright spot? I think there's one. At Pit Guru, Harry Soros. Steelers day one starter at center, no doubt. 19 pass blocking snaps for Zach Frazier, 0 pressures allowed. So I don't know if that's
against predominantly the Texans backups, though. I mean, that's I think the bigger stat is the one that's not on here. No bobbled snaps.
Yeah.
I think that could be one of those. Hey, this could be the thing, young man.
Well, we'll find out we'll find out this weekend, but then in 2 weeks.
We'll just keep finding out.
Yeah, I just don't want that to be the narrative all season. Like, this young line is trying to get it together, and and then that's all the questions. How can you get this offense going if without this line? I don't know. I don't know. But then again, if you want anxiety, we can talk receivers. At Portersburg, get Quez Watkins off my team. Do you think he earned his spot off the roster with one preseason game?
Well, it's interesting because the next practice they had, he apparently had his best practice, and Tomlin said, and I quote, after the practice, he needed to. Yeah, which is I don't remember anything like that where, wow, this guy needed the comeback practice. Now, I understand vaguely that the way it went down was Watkins was like, hey, let me return these kicks, and they were like, sure, and then that it went like one of us had said, hey, let me return these kicks. And I mean, when you've been trash talked by the Texans punter, perhaps new things have to be done. That's an amazing clip. Please don't find that online.
Who else is going to return?
Calvin Austin.
Calvin Austin.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean this was very much, hey, can anyone else do this job? And there's a whole bunch of guys that can, and they wanted to see if Quez Watkins could, and he couldn't, and he won't again. He won't even get the Gunnar Olszewski, we'll keep trotting you out there until you just step out of bounds moment.
Well, speaking of Calvin Austin, at Mic'd Up Sports, Mike Nicastro, if the Steelers don't end up acquiring another wide receiver, Calvin Austin is easily one of the most important players on the entire team this season.
That's right.
Is that right? I mean, he's not even. Is he the number 3 wideout?
Yeah. I mean, it's. Well, I mean, I guess you could say Freiermuth, but that's But yeah, he definitely is, because it's somebody is going to have to somehow draw that double team away from George, and I don't know, between him and Van, somebody's going to have to figure it out.
So, how many snaps is he even going to get if they're playing these 2 tight end sets and they're running the ball? Is he going to get more than 10 to 12 snaps in a game,
Something, yeah. I mean, they're going to have to figure out a way to keep teams from completely taking George out of the game.
I'm worried about, I said I was worried about O-line, but I'm worried about receivers too. I guess it's time to talk Aiyuk stuff.
Not a whole lot longer, I don't think.
Can we please not? But you know what? Let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was at Niners practice. There's not a whole lot left to talk about here.
I'll do this one. At Trey Dubs 73. Trey Dubs. Make it make sense to me. A new offensive coordinator. Run and set up play action. Use tight end more. No QB signed beyond this year. Is it worth ransoming future capital just because a guy wants to play for Tomlin? Shouldn't he want to play for the Steelers? I get depth in the room, but is squeeze worth the juice? This is what I've been saying about Aiyuk the whole time. It was just like, it's not it's not worth it. What we'd have to give up, be it draft capital or player capital.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to pay a receiver at some point, and I tend to agree with you that I didn't want to do it when there was a first-round draft pick. When there wasn't a first-round draft pick, I became a lot more amenable to it, but then I thought, wow, that's a lot of money, and then between this guy and George, you probably wouldn't be able to sign George, and then I kind of thought, well, they sort of dumped Deontay Johnson as quickly as they could because they kind of, and that might have come under the heading of volunteers, not hostages. And there's also kind of a world where, like, okay, say they sign Aiyuk for this big, big money, then they have to choose between him and George. Well, no, they really don't. They let George go, too. And then you've kind of gotten rid of everybody that's sort of been kind of a headache in your wide receiver room, and you still have one of the best receivers in the game, and maybe you take a swing at the next second or third round draft pick and hope that, they don't have any attitude problems that never come up, or they come up a little bit later. So I kind of saw it from their perspective then. But man, I didn't want to do it at a first round. I was out on it as a first round pick, and I was like 60% out after that. I could see them doing it, and it certainly would improve the team now, even though it would probably open up a lot of problems fairly early on after.
If we're paying, it seems like the focus is going to continue to be defense. TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, now Patrick Queen. Those contracts are going to eat up the money. If we pay a quarterback, then it's almost like, yeah, let's just get cheap receivers. We're not paying Najee. Let's just get cheap. How cheap can we be on offense and win with defense and just try to, get what we can on these first contract offensive players.
Yeah, but you got to pay for a receiver at some point, though. I mean, that makes sense, and what you said makes sense, and I think you're like 99% of the way there. I do think they would. The only thing I'd add to that is they would pay for a receiver at some point, even if it was, paying deeply for Freiermuth or something. Like, I mean, the only team that's won without a big receiver is the Chiefs, and even then they made Kelsey one of the highest paid, maybe the highest paid at his position. So, I mean, it's the days of winning without the big receiver might be over for a while, even with the focus on defense, which I'm glad they do, since that's a zig where everyone else zags.
Yeah, it's fine. Oh, why is my buttons not working all of a sudden? Oh, my goodness. Well, there we go. Okay, is there anything else to say? How about one more thing on just this Aiyuk BS? And it is from... Oh, come on. Is nothing working now? Well, isn't that special? Refresh computer. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
At SW Medal OSU Football the Wars Medal. Complete and utter garbage reporting on everyone on this fiasco. Omar handled this wideout this offseason like a chump who has no clue what he's doing. We have no one outside of Pickens. He put all his cards on the Aiyuk basket, and we're left with Van Jefferson as wideout number 2. Skull emoji. It does seem, man, but I've been saying this all summer. It does seem like the DJ trade was a bit premature, and you're right. We don't have, although Van Jefferson they think is emerging, but is this an Omar loss? Is this a failure here?
I mean, it is. It hasn't worked out optimally so far. I think they wanted to get rid of Deontay Johnson as quickly as possible, and they did that. I don't think they ever saw him as a viable option for this season, much less through training camp. But I did think they thought they'd be able to bring in someone else. I mean, if, like I said the other week, if they'd just gotten that, what was it, Mike Williams guy that went to New York, this all would have been solved. Or if they'd signed someone else. But they never really made that big effort to sign someone else, which is why I think everyone sort of thought there was something else in the wings, whether it was Aiyuk or Cortland Sutton or something of that ilk. But it does feel a little hard to believe after all this that they're going to go into this season with what feels like an offense that's missing a huge part, but we won't really know that until we see it out there. I mean, it's just hard not to think about that game, the Ravens game in the Typhoon, where they were able to take Pickens out of it entirely, which of course helped DJ get the long touchdown. But man, they are really relying a lot on Van Jefferson if this is the way things are.
Yeah, we're turning Van Jefferson into a star if the way things are going to go, or Scotty Miller or something. But then, I just keep but they're going to run all these tight end sets. And okay, well, that's going to be Freiermuth season. Although, where's his, he hasn't gotten that extension. I guess they were waiting to see what happened with Aiyuk. I don't know.
Why are you so negative? It's August. It's August. You can't get buried by this now.
All right. Yeah, we can't get it. Okay. Let's talk defense. Please.
There we go.
Why can't these? Oh, computer. Thank you. At Baldy NFL, Brian Baldiger. Payton Wilson is he born to be a Steeler? Sure, looked like a Steeler linebacker to me in his NFL debut. Oh, okay. Are we ready to give him the Kenny preseason treatment? Like he's ready to be an automatic playmaker there.
Yeah, I think that one play was enough for me. The very first defensive snap, he got through two guys and hit the running back in the backfield. I was ready to take him out then, but they let him keep playing. Apparently, he missed some tackles in the second half, which sure, that's fine. But yeah, he's going to be in the rotation. He's going to play heavily, and he's going to be an absolute monster on special teams. So I was always a little bit wary of this, just because I can't remember a 4th-round pick with this much hype. Maybe Martavis, just because he was so freakish athletically. But yeah, this is I am on board now. This guy's going to be a contributor so long as he's healthy.
Okay, well, it looks like you are on the same page as
geez.
Computer at the Pony.
Whistle. Yeah.
I know. I at the Pony Express. Andrew Filipponi. Devin Bush never looked as good as Payton Wilson in a dozen preseason snaps.
That's not true. Devin Bush had some good plays his rookie season, and even going up to the injury against the Browns changed everything for Devin Bush. I'm not sure he was going to be Ray Lewis, but he was going to be a solid contributor, and maybe more than that for a long time, if not for that injury.
But if Payton Wilson does emerge, then will we finally reverse the Shazier Devin Bush curse?
It's entirely possible. Yes. Or reverse it a lot quicker with Patrick Queen, just without having to develop anybody.
No one's talking about Queen at all. I guess.
Right.
Well, we haven't seen him yet.
Right. Although there is that wonderful clip of him the first time he actually realizes Renegade is playing at the game, and he starts dancing around. It just occurred to him, this is my first Renegade.
Well, let's move on and talk about the downside. Not everyone is agreed. Why? Why isn't everything loading? Thank you. At Pittsburgh Sports, Steeler Takeaways. Watching Payton Wilson a lot in the game replay today. I didn't love what I saw. Was beaten a lot in coverage. A lot. And missed tackles, yada, yada. Is he going to be asked to do a lot of coverage this year?
Right. I think that you beat me to it. That was particularly not because, again, the guy's going to play a lot of special teams and be in there, in the rotation at inside linebacker, but he's definitely going to be at the bottom of that rotation. I also think this is the kind of thing that's going to be improved. I don't know why you thought he would be perfect in his very first preseason game. That'd be very weird. At least this person is, it's no panic or anything. It is, at least now we've started to put qualifiers at the end of these doom-saying tweets.
He's going to be, we're not expecting him to be, besides special teams, on the field unless there is an injury. Right?
Well, also they're going to rotate him in, but it's a part of rotation. Who? It's not like, what are the three inside linebackers? Holcomb's still hurt.
Yeah, okay.
Wilson's ahead of Robinson, who may not make the team. So it's Patrick Queen, it's Landon Roberts, and a fair amount of the time it'll be Wilson. Sure.
Okay, all right. I still wouldn't mind. Mark Robinson. I wouldn't. I wouldn't mind bringing, because we've got Wilson and Matakevich on special teams. Right. I wouldn't mind, Quan Alexander. But there was a reason why they're holding on to Robinson for now and not signing another linebacker in the wake of this Cole Holcomb injury.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are we done talking? No, one more thing on D. We never talk secondary, or do we? At Brian Batko, Joey Porter Jr. has been flagged a decent amount in camp, and it shows up again there, covering Robert Woods. I'm going to place this in the mildly concerning filing cabinet. There was a penalty he could have got too that I think they didn't throw the flag on. I guess they're called it an uncatchable ball.
Yeah,
but that's going to be his rub all season.
Yeah,
right?
For the rest of his career. I mean, I thought that was going to be a thing last year, and it happened less often than I thought. He is a physical giant press corner, and a guy like that's always going to be susceptible to the penalty.
I'm just closing this window. Nothing has seemed to work. Let's talk special team. The one thing that no one is tweeting about is special teams, specifically gunners. You know, we lost James Pierre and
Miles
Boykin. So the gunners, were Des Fitzpatrick and Beanie Bishop, who did not make an impact on the punt plays. But it does seem like Des Fitzpatrick is getting all of this. He seems to be a core 4 special teamer there.
Good.
Which means, so now we've got Pickens, we've got Calvin Austin, we've got Van Jefferson, the rookie, that's 4.
Yeah.
If you keep 5, is it going to be Scotty Miller? Are you going to keep 6 with it seems like Des Fitzpatrick might be a roster lock.
Oh yeah, I mean if he's somebody, I mean that's the thing though about him getting a lot of tries at gunner. Does that mean we like him for the job, or we want to see if he can do this? Is that's the two sides of the first preseason game snap count.
He didn't necessarily make an impact either. In fact, he got that penalty for running out of bounds.
Yeah.
But who else? I didn't see Corey Trice out there at all. Is he still nursing an injury? But it's like I didn't see him out there at all. Special teams, I think we saw a lot of Watts, the safety. Yeah. Graylin Arnold, the cornerback. So some of these guys are going to have to make the roster for special teams. I didn't see Scotty Miller playing teams.
Right.
So it's going to be like Des Fitzpatrick, the linebacker Wilson, Watts, the safety. Mark Robinson is getting a lot of special teams snaps.
Right.
Beanie Bishop, Graylin Arnold.
Matakevich,
of
Miles
course.
Killebrew.
Miles Killebrew, of course.
Yeah, the best special teamer in the world, right? I mean, I think that's like I said, I wasn't too focused on the snap counts of special teams in this game because I wasn't sure, and there's no way to be which are these guys that we think are good at this, and which of these guys, okay, this is your last chance. This is Quez Watkins catching a punt. That we're going to give you this shot. I mean, maybe this week will be a bit more informative. I've heard that. There is some thought that the second preseason game can be what the third preseason game used to be, and that, hey, here's the closest to what we're actually going to look like when the season starts, which leaves the third game as the, hey, if you want to have any chance of making this team whatsoever, bubble guys, do something tonight. So I maybe after this week it's a little more to look at it. But yeah, the special teams got a complete turnover with Boykin leaving for the Giants and James Pierre just not having a job. But so they are going to have to put someone else out there, and I think, and you're definitely right, that someone who doesn't necessarily look like they have a spot on the team is going to get a spot on the team specifically because of teams.
That is a reasonable expectation.
Or I guess it could be someone not currently on the roster. Maybe none of the above. Maybe none of these guys make the 53 and they bring in someone who's cut somewhere else.
Or even just they have other guys do it. Like Watts has so many 53-man projections, have him on the team. And for sure, he'll be playing special teams quite a bit. So I don't know how many snaps he got at the game on Saturday, but we know they like him a lot, and he will definitely, as a backup safety, be playing a lot of special teams.
Yeah, he came in the second half on the punt teams. So okay, and then Tomlin was back on the pivot at real Clark 25 Ryan Clark. Coach Tomlin calls not reaching the Super Bowl since 2010 painful, but acknowledges life is, which I guess that's an honest assessment.
It is. It's just a little more of a downer than you're used to from Tomlin.
But what I was interested, I think the only thing because he only spent about 30 minutes talking with him this time.
It wasn't that like movie length version the last time.
And when Fred Taylor and when the other guys ask questions, it's kind of like the same run of the mill stuff. But the one thing that stuck out to me was Coach Tomlin said he spends 30 minutes every day. He said the quarterback room, so I'm guessing that's Russ, Justin, and Kyle Allen, and the other guy. But he says they're just because it's a new room entirely. Yeah. He spends 30 minutes a day just to talk like leadership and Steelers culture with the players.
Good.
So.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, is it like a lecture series? Like today's Thursday Steelers culture lecture is here's the days of Bubby Brister. Like, I don't know how that would work. That is interesting though, and that's good to hear. And that's the kind of thing that it's easy for me to make fun of in this chair that really does make an impact come November or December. Like the kind of thing, like a practice or something like that. So it seems like a really good idea.
It sounded like something. It sounded like how to address different players. Like they're going over the yesterday's footage and like how to get this guy to bounce back or how to, or even it was stuff like, hey, we're going to have celebrities show up today. We're going to have Brett Michael, how to deal with that kind of stuff. Like,
that makes sense.
Once you cross the white line, it's all business. But otherwise, you're going to get to meet these legends and celebrities and different, I don't know. It just seemed like it was a lot of above the neck stuff.
No, and that's great, particularly for guys that are new to it in Pittsburgh. I mean, certainly Russ and Justin are used to what it's like to be celebrities for being quarterbacks, but it's very different when you're doing that in Pittsburgh.
Okay, well, I think the and camp is over now. Camp went by quick.
It really did.
As long as the off season was, man, this camp went by quick.
Yeah, camp was going in a blink.
And then in 3 months we're gonna be like, man, this season went by quick. How did that happen? We're back to the off season. The off season goes slow.
The off season lasts forever.
Seasons go by quickly. The off season lasts forever. All right, some odds and ends here. Starting with at Mark Cabali. Well, it looks like I just became a free agent. If anyone's looking for a veteran Steelers NFL writer with 22 years of experience, feel free to reach out to me. DMs are open. Should we get our own official insider? Should we reach out? How much budget do we have to...
Well, I don't know if you saw. We would be beat out by somebody that might have a marginally more successable podcast, the Pat McAfee Show.
Are they going to hire
They
him?
allegedly hired him.
Oh, they did?
Yes. I'm not sure to do what. I mean, maybe just to have, like you said, just a pet Steelers reporter. Because, I mean, think if you had Pat McAfee's money, isn't that the kind of thing you would do? Like other rich guys could buy a boat. I'm going to buy Steelers access. Now that I'm kind of talking myself into this seems like a really good idea for a rich guy. So, yeah. And,
yeah, well... and I know that, it's probably budget and money for the reasons why the Athletic let him go. But I always have my, I'm thinking, I look back at that article on Cam Hayward, was it last month or 2 months ago, where, Cam was like, I might even play for Cleveland. And then less than 24 hours later, he went on to the Fan and was like, I think Cam was just kidding. And then Cam was like, yeah, I'm not playing for Cleveland. So I can't imagine the Athletic, who was trying to be the sports, paper of record, wants to have their own article debunked by their own reporter a day later on the so-called Fan. Plus, look, and when these guys go on the Fan, they talk different squawk than what they write. And we've said that before. But back in March, Cabali came out with, he was 0 for 5 on these free agent or off-season predictions. Doesn't think Russ will sign, number one. Mason is still in play for Pittsburgh, number 2. Doesn't rule out a Tyler Boyd signing, number 3. Allen Robinson will stay with Pittsburgh, number 4. And the DJ trade is on the fence. I think that was all in one appearance on the Fan, 0 for 5. So he's on the Gunnar Olszewski trajectory with that, but... does that stuff play? Does it make it easier for something like the Athletic to let him go when there's stuff like that happening? I don't know.
I never understand exactly how the Athletic stays open. I'm not sure how much longer it does. I mean, we've always heard they're bleeding money. I do know that if you click on Steelers articles now, you have Mike DeFabo, who was the other Steelers writer with Mark Cabali, and some guy named Mike Jones that covers the Washington Commanders for the Athletic, and also apparently puts in in a Steelers article every now and then now about stuff he couldn't possibly be there for. So, and this is after, and there's whole teams that don't have a writer at The Athletic, like the Pirates. They let Nesbitt go years ago, which is why it's still remarkable. They have 2 on the Penguins. Hopefully that lasts. But yeah, The Athletic is one of those things that I wake up each day thinking, this could go down today.
Not good enough.
Not good enough. You would think with the, look, Behind the Steel Curtain is the number one for SB Nation because, Steeler Nation is addicted to clickbait. And so you would think The Athletic would see that, Steelers Depot does record numbers. I don't know how many other teams can have an independent website that employs, they're employing like a dozen people
team
or something.
Of folks.
Yeah. So the fact that Steelers traffic is highly engaging for The Athletic to not
exactly that's why it's surprising, and I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in someone else that isn't their day job covering the Commanders.
Maybe I should reach out. Does that revoke his press pass then, or can he still go to the locker room without a job?
I have no idea how that works. I kept thinking of the players, like when retired players would go and like work out with the team, or guys that were free agents that they didn't renew their contract, they still let you work out there. But yeah, I don't know. This is all moot now because he can go in there waving whatever the Pat McAfee press pass is, and presumably they'll let you go everywhere at Steelers training camp.
Okay. How about at Coach Tomlin, Mike Tomlin, your new Steelers home run derby champion? Way to go, Justin Fields.
That's crazy.
I'm guessing Russ didn't play. The Division I baseball player, Russ Wilson. I'm guessing
New York Yankees draft pick, Russell Wilson.
I'm guessing he didn't get to play in the home run derby.
But the guy who did was the guy that hit 10 home runs for Central Florida last year, John Reese Plumlee, and Fields beat him. This was in reading about this afterwards. This is where you got a lot of those comments about like Justin Fields is the greatest pure athlete a lot of us have seen at Steeler camp, and it's a lot of guys that like weren't there for Polamalu and Prime Ben, but that's still an amazing statement to make.
He's got hips like Jagger, I guess. And is that what's it take? It's not arms when you hit home runs. It is. I
think it's everything. But there's also like we've lived in a world like Babe Ruth, Jim Thome, like guys that are not going to win a race anytime soon have Hall of Fame power. So it has to be. But like you said, hips and arms and everything. And it's just like, this Fields must be a world-class athlete if anyone can help him put it together.
Or is it the jinx? The last 2 years was Kenny Pickett. Kenny hits dingers. So is this the jinx? You might win the black and gold bat, but you don't get to win on Sunday. Okay. Well, to be determined. How about at Mazursky 8895 Baku, laughing my A off. They did Payton Wilson so dirty. This is Madden 25, and Payton Wilson looks like what? Who is that?
He's played by Ernest Borgnine.
Payton Wilson has a hair and a beard, and I don't know if he's that beefy.
He's not this beefy. This is a round man. This is. If you asked AI to make you Payton Wilson, it would do a better job than this. Oh my word! This is a totally different guy. This is a guy who's trying to heist the treasure chest at the bottom of Acrisure Stadium. This isn't Payton Wilson. Look at this. I'm so glad you included this. This is hilarious.
I'm not buying Madden because of this. This is it. Maybe there's an update. I don't know.
But like this guy wouldn't be in the NFL. No one looks like this in the NFL anymore. I don't know if they did ever since the helmets weren't those like flaps with the big leather hat. Like, wow.
All right.
Thank you for including
How
that.
about
That was
one
great.
last thing here? At Josry Football, JPA Football, the biggest divas in the NFL, according to at Pick'em. And we've got number 3, Deontay Johnson. Number 5, George Pickens. And number 2, Brandon Aiyuk. Is George Pickens a diva? That incident where he didn't block. But
Right.
that seems like everything is based on that one play.
It is weird, and how many of these divas have been connected to the Steelers. It's hard for me for the reasons you said not to put Aaron Rodgers first, because that's like a continued divaness across more than half the country, I think, between Wisconsin and New York. But yeah, it is striking that, and you also notice that we have no stats to back this up. The diva numbers, the diva meter, how much divaness they performed week after week.
Yeah, 35 cryptic tweets and you know,
2 alleged locker room altercations, and yeah, it's. I would have to see how we allocated diva points.
Okay, well, I think that's what we've been talking about.
That's what we've been talking about.
Got it. All right. Please send us your iTunes reviews. I don't know why no one wants to give us an iTunes review. We are giving away, I've got the Behind the Yoy, the new Myron Cope book. It's in our possession. We're ready to give it away. Ooh. I've got a Dick LeBeau Legendary ready to give away. Coming in the mail is, who's the other offensive coordinator under Bradshaw who has a book coming out?
Joe... I forget.
Yeah, it sounds like Joe something. We
weren't alive.
We've got things to give away. I want an iTunes review, and some kind of second affirmation, maybe a YouTube follow, subscription. We do have a West Coast listener. Someone hit me up on YouTube saying that they're. So I'll count that as one. If you give us the iTunes review now, we'll put you in the running for our next giveaway. I mean, I know hardback books aren't necessarily who has room for them anymore in their house, but you can see both Greg and I this Saturday at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank for the Best of the Fest night at the Burbank Comedy Festival. Woo. Otherwise, follow me at Kyle Kreis. And Greg, how about yourself?
Follow me at Greg Benevent, B as in boy, E-N-E, V as in Victor, E-N-T.
Okay. Next week, I promise we'll be back and running. Hopefully, if I get my act together,
You're doing good.
The songs will be back. Everything will be back. It's just been a busy week.
Yes, it has.
And we'll have the answers we seek come next week, right? Maybe should we even talk 53-man predictions? Maybe it's time at that point.
Maybe it's time.
Or maybe I don't know. Okay. We still went over an hour somehow. All right. Until next week, keep listening to your coach.
Be their best selves. That's going to be required.
Stay in school.